Hello, and welcome to the Cash-Based Practice Podcast, a production of drjarodcarter.com, aimed at giving physical therapists and other healthcare practice owners the information needed for success in the private pay business model. And now, here's your host, Jarod Carter.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. This is a highlights episode of the podcast where we've gone through to extract the stories, the strategies, and the topics that we feel give you the best chance for success in the out-of-network private pay business model. As always, I want to thank my sponsors of the podcast, Patient Sites, not just for being loyal sponsors all these years, but for what they've done for my own private practice. I really appreciate it, guys. Check them out at patientsites.com. If you are interested in this practice model, which obviously you are, there's some must-know information in a free 2-hour in-depth training that I've hosted at drjarodcarter.com/the8keys. You can go to that webpage and pick a time that works for you to take in all that information and apply it to your current or future practice. And of course, if you have appreciated anything about this podcast, gotten anything from it, even just inspiration, please hop over to iTunes and leave an honest review, and I would deeply appreciate it. So with all that said, thank you again so much always for joining me, and here is this week's episode highlight.
As you're writing content, not just for blog posts, but really any page on your site, there should be this balance between being informative and wanting someone to take a certain action that hopefully leads to becoming a lead or and eventually a customer, but also giving options to surf around to other parts of the site. And the reason for that is that another part of what Google looks at is bounce rate and total time on site. Once somebody has clicked from that search result, let's say they're looking for knee rehab, right? And they click on the blog posts on knee rehab, and they go there and they say, okay, well that was nice and informative, and then they click back, right? And they go back to Google. That's considered a bounce. So if you get a bounce, if someone goes from Google to your site and then hits back for whatever reason, they can still get what they wanted to read, or wanted to see. But if they're not compelled to click and do something else beyond that and go to another part of your website, and they end up going straight back to Google from the link which they, the page which they clicked to, that's really bad. and it happens a lot. I mean, most websites have pretty high bounce rates. If you're kicking butt on load speed and you have a really low bounce rate, and concurrently using you have a low bounce rate, you have a higher than average total time on website, because if they're clicking around to different parts of your site, they're spending more time on it. If you have that kind of trifecta, you're going to be doing really well, especially against most other PT or direct MD, type of websites where, unless you're competing against a corporation that spends a ton of money on this kind of stuff, you are going to perform really well if you can manage those things. And so that's where things like internal linking come in. And internal linking is simply links that you have on your website, and in this case, especially in the text of, say, the blog post you're writing or just the page you're creating, that go to other relevant parts of the site. So an example would be, wherever you, like in our site, if it says, our hands-on therapy approach, will provide XYZ for this sort of pain, or whatever. Let's say just at any point in time, I say manual therapy or hands-on manual therapy or something like that. Well, those words will be a link to our services page on manual therapy, PT services, and then each page, we have manual therapy, therapeutic exercise, dry needling, etc. So anytime those types of modalities or services are mentioned or listed, then we're linking to that page, so that if someone's reading it and they want to know more about what is manual therapy, or what is, a lot of times we say our approach to manual therapy. Or if I say our approach to physical therapy treatment, takes them, that line would, or those words would become a text link to our what to expect page, or maybe in your case it's a how we are different page or whatever, right? If I talk about a therapist, or if I say our therapist or something like that, that might be a link to the about page. Some other examples would be you're building out a lot of information, or if you have, say you have a patient site's website and you have a ton of information preloaded. Well, if you're writing more content, you're doing a series of blog posts on hip pain or on a certain syndrome that you treat. Well, you can utilize those to link back to, the pages, those keystone pages of really, great content on, say, hip anatomy. Each body part on their kind of 1,200 articles is defined, and all the different issues. So you can really get granular on where you link to give people more details and on relevant information that you're already mentioning. And you want it to be, as I mentioned early on, a balance between, you don't want to just have like 20 links and hope that they click one just so that you minimize bounce rate, because then you start to get into the realm of too many options, right? And people kind of zoning out or being like, oh, this is too much. Or, even more importantly, them not taking the ultimate action that you want them to take, which is to contact you in some form, right? And even that is a great and very important form of internal linking. Once we're all done with this on my website, because we're having to go back and do it now, you're going to notice that a lot of the links that we utilize are going to be either in little call to action CTA boxes where it says, in pain or injured in the greater Austin area, click here for a free consult. Click here to request a free consultation. It's a little button, right? But it's not just those call out boxes which stand out better. You can also just kind of sneak them in skillfully as an inline link. Say you're just writing your blog posts about the different causes of plantar fasciitis. And, underneath your causes, as an example on my website right now, if you're wondering if any of the above listed causes is what's, behind your stubborn heel pain, click here for a free phone consultation, and we should be able to figure it out quite quickly. And it's important to also note that you're not linking the term click here. You can say click here. I often will say click here to speak with one of our expert manual physical therapists in Austin, right? Well, the link might be speak with one of our expert manual physical therapists, because the text that you utilize for the link is read by Google. So you don't want to be ranking high for click here. You want to be ranking high for expert manual therapist in your town or whatever, right? So think about the actual way you write and mixing, or the way you, the keywords that you want to actually link, that you want to rank for. So if you're trying to rank a page for, knee pain rehabilitation in Austin, Texas, then you're not only using knee pain rehabilitation in Austin, Texas as much as you can without it sounding weird, right? But you're also trying to figure out, where can I do an internal link that is actually utilizing those keywords as well? Taking it to a more detailed page on pain as a whole, or, term physical therapy, going to your physical therapy services page or whatever. But I did want to kind of give an overview of that, because I know a lot of people are in the process of building their websites, trying to optimize them, working on SEO, and this is a really great thing, a very important thing to minimize bounce rate and get people, make what my brother calls, make your website sticky, make it stickier, keep them sticking around and bouncing around your website and staying on the website as long as possible. What was I going to say? Yeah, again, if you're able to do these things while you're building out the content, even if it's just a matter of like having to go back a month later, just going back in, and the time adds up. And we're all, as entrepreneurs, that's kind of the constant struggle. It's something you can't ever make back as time. And so this is a really important thing to try to do as you're doing, as you're building it up right. It's exciting how much it can change things in your Google ranking. Trying to optimize performance, make sure you're running your site through gtmetrics.com to see what your load speed is and how list kind of areas that might need improvement. That's really important. Right now mine is terrible because, again, we've got some kind of hack thing happening, but it's just up and down. But once we kind of clear out all the stuff, I'm going to switch. Hosting is actually quite important. People think it's kind of a commodity, and just kind of go with whoever's cheapest. Don't do that. really look at who's best rated and combo of best rated and most affordable. It's not just the most affordable thing. And I would even say paying a little bit more for someone like WP Engine, which I use to host one of my websites. I'm going to be switching the clinic site over to that. Once we're 100% done and we feel like we have clean code and everything's good, we're going to switch it over, because in the switchover, they do like a huge scan and they can tell us if there's any remaining malware issues. We haven't switched it over yet, but I can tell you that having a solid host that is well reviewed as being super supportive and responsive and fast to fix any issues is highly, highly important. If you do it right, over time, if your website is really producing, multiple leads a week because you've done it right, it's coming up, it converts those users and those visitors into leads, and your site goes down and you've got a host that's like, it's going to be 48 hours before we can figure out what's going on, that won't cut it. You will lose a lot more money than you save by going with someone that's $3 a month less or $10 a month.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cash-Based Practice Podcast. If you liked what you heard here today, we have some extremely important things we want to send you. First, a quick start guide to cash-based physical therapy and Medicare. This free ebook will provide the primary rules and regulations surrounding this confusing but important topic. Secondly, we want to share with you the 5 characteristics common to all successful cash-based practices. Find out the vital things Jarod has learned from years of interviewing cash practice owners and running his own successful cash practice. As one of our listeners, we want to give you all this information absolutely free. You can get it right now by going to drjarodcarter.com/success. Again, that's drjarodcarter.com/success. Go there now to get your copies, and we'll see you next time.